right, we are back with all hands. It's been a little while. It's been a crazy month or so, traveling a lot from Louisville to the ASCM conference to recently in Orlando for CSCMP to Ireland with Combi Lift for the 25th anniversary to our happy hour in Philly. Been all over the place and it's been a little wild to say the least, but finally able to get an episode of All Hands together and put out for this week. Very excited, very fun episode that we're going to have. Very fun conversation that I had with both Nicholas Daniel Richards from Packiyo and Gabe Grifoni from Rufus Labs and talking about their partnership. But what's going on with the new warehouse lately? Still putting out content, hoping that you guys like it, and definitely looking to see to the future next year. Planning to do more happy hours as well. Happy hour in Philadelphia, we've gotten a lot of great feedback from that. So thank you to Variable for supporting that one. And also thank you to those that came and attended and had a great time. It was a great gathering of people working in the industry, from 3PLs to shippers to some solution providers. It was a really great mix and really great to have that kind of more intimate type of event to get together and connect. So also what's going on with the new warehouse as we go to next year. If anyone is interested in advertising, sponsoring to our audience, we are in the process of signing up for next year. So just reach out and ask me, and we'll be able to get you some information around that. Looking to do some really exciting things next year, some different things at some of the trade shows, and really kind of being able to partner and bring kind of a booth or a trade show event or situation to the next level, because we see that there's a lot of great connection happening. And we just did that with Motion to AI at CSCMP Edge, where we did our live streams, if you did not see, directly from their booth. So we're able to generate a lot of interest there and create some content that will be spanning out, and we'll be releasing those individual clip conversations as the following weeks come, probably starting next week. I would say we'll be posting those on Tuesdays and Thursdays in between the audio podcast and all hands episodes. So this week, for a safety tip, I will say, as we are getting closer into peak season here, and I'm sure new employees are coming on board, you're ramping up your staff, getting ready for this busy season. We'll see how peak season pans out, but we know it's definitely going to be busier than the normal times of the year. So as you're bringing in more employees, ensuring that you're getting the proper training, safety training and safety tips, making sure and doing safety audits so that as you're bringing new employees in, it's easy for them to see from a safety aspect things that are supposed to happen, whether it's from a signage perspective, tape perspective, maybe from our friends at Mighty Line Floor Tape there, doing all those things to make sure that as people are moving faster, new people are coming in, that they're not running into potential safety hazards or safety issues, and that it's very clear to make sense, like that, hey, pallets don't go here, right? This is an egress. Make sure the egress is labeled, or things don't get left on the floor. Don't lean pallets. Make sure you have signage in place that is able to dictate that and show that. So very important, especially as you get influx of new employees, and also as your people are moving faster and you're trying to push more volume out the door and increasing that volume that you're doing overall on a daily basis. As we move faster, sometimes we tend to lose sight of some safety things, and you want to make sure that you're ingraining that and keeping that in place, and not kind of loosening up the reins on the safety a little bit. So very, very important to do that. So that's the safety tip for this week. Going into the main segment for this week, having a conversation with Nicholas Daniel Richards from Packiyo and Gabe Grifoni from Rufus Labs, talking about both of their solutions, talking about the recent partnership that they just announced last week, what that means for businesses and how that's kind of simplifying getting a hardware and software component together for your operation. And we also get some little peak season tips from them too. So here is my conversation with Nicholas Daniel Richards of Packiyo and Gabe Grifoni of Rufus Labs. Hey guys, and welcome to this week's episode of All Hands. And I am going to be joined by two guests today. We're going to be joined by Nicholas Daniel Richards of Packiyo and Gabe Grifoni of Rufus Labs. And we're going to talk a little bit about their solutions, which we have talked about on the podcast previously, but they recently, I think as early as last week or as latest as last week, have come together in a partnership to really take the Packiyo WMS and add the Work Hero component along with the handhelds that Rufus offers together. And really a smart partnership in my opinion. I think it makes a lot of sense what they're doing. But I'm going to let them tell us all about it. So first, welcome guys to the show. How are you?
Good to be here, Kevin.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
It's been a while. I'm sorry that I look like a Twitch streamer, but it's getting dark early now, so I needed some light. Yes. I was just bright pink, so I needed something to balance the pink out.
Yeah, I think Nicholas just got off like a bender on Fortnite or something like that. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So definitely check him out on Twitch. We'll put that little plug in there for him.
Yeah, I wonder what the name would be. Ginger Git or something like that.
So that's actually my name on Twitch. But anyway, but yes. So Nicholas, why don't you, I guess, tell us a little bit before we kind of dive into the partnership, and maybe for people that are not as familiar with Packiyo or haven't heard of Packiyo before, tell us.
Surely not.
Packiyo,
surely that hasn't happened.
And what it is that you do.
Yeah. So Packiyo is, I guess, the box term for it could be software for a warehouse. So our obsession and our focus is the software that you would traditionally call a WMS that runs a warehouse, whether you're a 3PL. We have a 3PL version of our software. And we have a specific version of our software for brands. So it's really all of the stuff that's happening inside a warehouse, from the inventory coming in, where it goes, what happens with that inventory once it's put away in location, how orders are picked and packed, returns, how people are managing all of that stuff. That's what we do. I've always thought of how to do it, how to communicate it more sophisticated, but that's really what it is. It just helps a warehouse run.
Right. It covers all the components and process flow, baby.
Yeah. And try and keep it simple, right? That's I think we've got most of it where we've still got work to do, but most of it we keep it simple.
All right, keeping it simple is great. We love that for the warehouse. So Gabe, why don't you tell us about Rufus Labs and what it is that you guys do for those that aren't familiar?
Sure. So at Rufus, we build wearable technology, barcode scanning, and a lot of productivity analytics all into one. So we have a hardware solution that you use to kind of replace your existing hardware solutions, and around that we have a whole bunch of software analytics and features that just kind of work out of the box with that system. And then, it's been great working with Nicholas and the team at Packiyo there, because when we look at our customers, they're looking for solutions that kind of out of the box just work well together. So our technology does some things really great, in terms of providing that barcode scanning tech, eyes and ears into everyone on the floor and what they're doing, what labor tasks they're doing, where they're moving around, scans, steps between scans, all that kind of information. And then dropping on like a best-in-class WMS on there kind of gives that holistic picture of, I open up this box, I have everything, and I can pick and pack and focus on my productivity and job here, getting things out the door.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it makes so much sense for you guys to come together. I mean, when you're looking at the warehouse management system, the WMS, which Packiyo is providing in this situation, I mean, oftentimes the WMS and side of sort of that productivity side of things and labor management, if you want to call it that, is often either kind of a little bolt on to the WMS and maybe not as robust as you would like it to be. But then you have the Work Hero solution, which is coming in and working with the Packiyo system in this partnership. And I think it makes so much sense to be able to leverage that already robust platform to track that productivity, and then have it with another simple platform like Packiyo within the WMS, and kind of have that overall solution that you can just kind of drop in and put in place, which I think makes a lot of sense. So I guess from your perspective, tell us kind of how did this partnership come about? Why does it make sense to you guys to partner together, and how did this all kind of come to fruition?
So I was spending way too much time on fulfill.com. So shout out to Joe and team there. And I think I had a conversation with a prospect, someone who was interested in our software, who I've known was an early Shapiro customer. And he was talking about the hardware. And, it's iOS only. He was looking at trying to get some Zebra or Zebra, whichever way you want to say it, Zebra ring scanners. And he was, they're pretty expensive. So he was looking on eBay, trying to get a set off eBay. And he was like, do you have compatibility with these devices? I'm like, not really. I mean, our mobile software, we have it for both Android and iOS. But I sort of have taken the approach in a previous life where it was like, all right, we've built the software, just find the devices, and it works with Socket Mobile. We've integrated it with Socket Mobile, and you can use the Socket Mobile devices. And it just became very clear to me. It was like all these years that I've been focused on the software on the desktop, and then obviously making sure that there's an awesome mobile experience, was always thinking about the software. So I'd come across Rufus on, I hadn't connected with Gabe at this point, but I come across Rufus. I think it was someone had mentioned you, Gabe, on Fulfill.
I have to say that I remember this post,
yeah,
discussion on that.
Oh, you do? Yeah.
I think I mentioned Rufus at one point.
And was it you?
I seconded that Rufus. I've totally forgot about this, but now I'm remembering.
Yeah. So that's when I reached out. Things are very busy. So a couple of months when you're building companies flies by, as we all know. So Gabe reached out a few weeks ago, and we connected. And what I was expecting, honestly, was like, okay, they've got some Android devices in a nice form factor, because I wanted to get away from having to hold two things. So it was like, if we could just have the one device, and maybe, I don't know, we can find a solution. I'll find a strap off Amazon or something that can put the thing on your arm and all that stuff. And then when I connected with Gabe, and Gabe actually went through the hardware and what they've developed, it was like, holy cow! Like they, from a hardware perspective, there's a lot of really well thought out devices that they have, and I say devices because there's just a lot of options, and then getting into an element that I didn't really think of, but obviously going through this and working together as partners, it's like, this is a no-brainer. This is how you build best in class. And it is thinking about the Work Hero solution, device management. I mean, a lot of us who have to handle all of these devices out there, it's like, if you're buying ad hoc devices, where are they? What's the state of them? One goes missing. Where did it go? It's a pain in the ass. So, and, doing software updates and firmware updates and all of that stuff. So, yeah, that's really, it's not that I was intentionally looking for a Rufus solution, because I just didn't realize it existed. And then, spending time with Gabe and Gabe's team, that's really where it was like, how could we not have this solution?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think too, like some of the complementary points that you're pointing out there. I think it makes total sense to have that partnership, right? Instead of having to go and try and build out that on your own, which it sounded like you were maybe contemplating a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we're forcing our customers to kind of go out on their own as well, right? Because we got
Yeah,
I have my recommended hardware list, so we're very good at the software. And then for the recommended hardware, buy. Here's a link to a refurbished Samsung A7 tablet on Amazon, kind of deal, right?
right,
So sure, you can do that, but um, I think the thing that has been my obsession is, coming back into this. This is my second WMS startup
right,
now, and for me, just thinking about the role of, why I get up in the morning, why we exist. It used to be a very different world building that first WMS starting 10 years ago. The world is very different, right? So things are happening much faster. I think for the most part, people are a bit more sophisticated when they think about how a warehouse should work, what their tools are. Um, just over the past couple of weeks, Vico, right, the Amazon WMS, which I've been playing with, but how they're pitching that as like this simple solution. So you could see people that are using ShipStation and need something a bit more sophisticated could jump to that. And the only thing you have to pay for is a bit on the label, and their hardware, which is really expensive and a large upfront cost. So you can see where this is going, and thinking about the role of Packiyo and then working with Gabe and team, I sort of see us as the WMS is not the be all end all. It shouldn't be, we can't solve every problem in the WMS. I think our focus needs to be those core tenets of inventory, product, shipping, how people are getting stuff done in the warehouse. But to really get best in class, you need to be part of a stack. And that stack to me is, we're that software component in the warehouse. Let's find the best partners when it comes to what are these devices that these mobile users are walking around with. I mean, that the majority of their time they're walking around the warehouse picking and packing, cycle counting, inventory movement. It only makes sense that the hardware meets the amount of effort and time that we put into the software experience as well. So yeah, it's, again, I mean, well done to Gabe and the Rufus team, because I haven't come across anything like this before. So I'm really happy that we got this partnership.
yeah, absolutely. And I think it makes total sense what you're saying. I mean, you're focused on making the best WMS you can make, right? And you don't want that. And sometimes, I mean, I think we see this sometimes in the industry where a company decides that, like, oh, maybe we should have this too, like this offering as well, and they kind of just throw something together, right, to have this extension of what they exist already. But it makes sense that you found like a robust partner in Rufus, and Gabe, and I think that makes a lot of sense. So Gabe, why don't you tell us from your perspective, how does the partnership make sense for Rufus, and kind of your thoughts overall on it?
Yeah, no, and Nicholas and his team have been great too. One of the areas, and we focus on really building, high quality tools that can do that, scanning job, right? And then building a bunch of technology around it. And we've always focused on, what happens outside the WMS, right? When people are working, but they're not picking and packing, are they doing other kinds of labor tasks? How much time are they spending? And how much are they walking? Are they efficient? Are they not? So there's always been kind of a blind spot for us, and we've never really wanted to fill it. We don't want to build the WMS, right? The WMS is great at doing these amazing things, telling workers and pickers what to do, what order to get them in, and error rates, all that kind of information. We're focused on a lot of data that what we kept hearing from customers is we're missing certain other parts of that puzzle, right? So together with a really great WMS, you kind of have this whole puzzle. And one of the, that's why it was really important to talk to Nicholas and Pacquiao. We've been, we know a lot of people in the WMS space, and we've been looking for partners who have, very similar kind of customer mindset and products that are really simple, and that are just meant to be deployed and get you into ROI quickly. Pacquiao checks off, all those boxes for us. I think that's one of the reasons why we had a lot of really great conversations in the beginning. We showed each other our technology and realized great. Here's one stack, here's the other stack together. That's this amazing, puzzle. So that's been really great for us. And we have customers that are, either greenfield using paper, looking for a WMS, or unhappy with their existing WMS. And we want to be able to say, hey, look, if you just take this out of the box, everything you need is right here. And that's kind of why this partnership has been, really important to get off the ground. And I think there's a lot of legs around it. We've already seen some, in the last week since we announced it, we've already had some really good feedback and traction from a lot of customers that are going into demo. So I think it's super exciting, and we're pumped about it.
Yeah, and I want to take this moment to apologize, but not really, to Socket Mobile. I think of all all the Socket Mobile devices that I've sold over the years, and they serve their purpose, but it's always been a bit of a friction point. Is like, even when it comes down to something as simple as I've got a bunch of devices and I need to pair a Bluetooth device. And you get like which device is which, and then the pairing, did it work? It's just removing all of that friction. The amount of time that that Rufus is going to save us on the onboarding process, because we get rid of that friction for our clients. So, I mean, I'm a big believer in this. I consider Packiyo, and I would think it's fair to say Rufus as well. And there are other partners, right? There's, I know, Kevin, you chatted with Chana at Raybot. So again, another cutting edge technology and platform that's bringing a deeper set of data that we didn't have before. So I think you're having this emerging set of tools. And really, I think my opportunity as the leader of Packiyo, if you will, is positioning us to work really closely with our clients, our partners, and our partners like Gabe and like Chana. And I think this next generation tool set is, don't try and be everything and sort of do a mediocre job on the things that are really not your core focus. Like, focus on your core value and then have these really strong relationships with, I know that I could, any opportunity that comes up where a client needs something, or there's an opportunity to evolve the product, and maybe there's a component of it where it extends into the hardware and the device management, I can have that conversation with Gabe and team. I can bring Rufus in with the client, and we're there to serve the client. We're there to partner with the client. And I think that represents this sort of next generation offering of, whether it's a WMS or it's devices or it's visioning systems or it's analytics. I think that's where we're going, which I'm really excited to be a part of.
One thing that Nicholas and I were chatting about before, and he kind of touched on here too, is 9 times out of 10 when we're acquiring a new customer or rolling out to a new customer or in demo, it's, hey, we're looking for partners, right? We're not looking for how it used to be and buying a doodad off a reseller's website, and then trying to load a bunch of stuff on it and make it work and deal with the headaches ourselves. Fortune 10 brands to small 3PLs with one facility or 10 are all looking for solution providers that are partners, that say, hey, look, we do this really well. We're going to work with you. We're going to be there as you grow. We're going to help build new tools. Both of our platforms are these monthly subscriptions that are always evolving. So there's always new hardware, always new features, always new abilities to do different types of pick tasks, right, together. And I think that's really important to understand, is we see more of that. That's the trend. So these kinds of best-in-class partnerships where, like I watched Voltron as a kid, right? 5 Lions. Like, that was a good, right? They each had different special powers, right? But together they were Voltron. So like, we're in that age now where our customers need like that Voltron. So bringing these, brands together, like working with Packiyo and Rufus, and I know Nicholas works with other brands, and we work with brands that do Wi-Fi as a service. We can bring those companies in to our customers and say, hey, we have a trusted ally here that can help you, guide you through this. That's what we're seeing across the boards everywhere, and why these kinds of partnerships are really important for the new kinds of 3PLs that we see out there.
Yeah. And I think that's a great thing. And I mean, I think it makes so much sense too, because if we look at, us as just individual consumers, right? All the things that we use are frequently updated. They're changing all the time. So, like, why can we not take that and put that in the enterprise level, right, at the business level? So it makes sense that you guys are taking that approach and building the Voltron of the warehouse, I guess you would say.
How do you not have that tagline, Gabe?
Yeah, you got to copyright that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Actually, that's a good T-shirt. That is a good
Yeah,
T-shirt.
that is a great T-shirt. I agree.
Yeah.
Maybe for Modex, since we've got a bunch of partners at the booth together, we'll do something.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. We got something there. We'll be looking forward to that. So, so I mean, it's very interesting, and I'm curious too. I mean, from the perspective, and Nicholas, you brought up the fulfill community there, but from the perspective of 3PLs, and especially 3PLs that are expanding or are a little smaller, independent. They're looking for solutions, and I think Gabe, you mentioned in there too about people still picking on paper and stuff like that. I mean,
yeah, it blows the mind when
Yeah.
I see that picking on paper.
Yeah, vomit, right? But so I mean, when they are looking for a solution, I mean, what does it mean for them to be able to come to either like Nicholas or yourself, Gabe, and be able to basically get everything in a box and put in and get up and running without having to figuring out hardware separately and then figuring out WMS separately, and how are they going to work together? I mean, how does that take it to the next level?
I think right away, because we provide metrics on both our dashboard and what Packiyo can do, right away if you're seeing an improvement. I think that's one of the easiest and kind of biggest impacts is when we go into demo, we know what pick rates were before, most likely. If they're going from, if they did time studies and they're going from paper to something else, you're going to see a gigantic impact right away. But any of those frustrations we can remove, like Nicholas was saying, I can't tell you how many deals we go in where it's, this third-party WMS, it's our hardware, and we have to figure out how to get rid of some of the bugs and why some things aren't working well together, why pairing isn't working, why my scans aren't getting sent directly to my WMS. There's a million different things that cause seconds, minutes of headaches for every worker on the floor, and that's devastating for their pick rate and for their day. So I think the biggest impact is, and we just had a couple team members on site at a large customer of ours, and day one was just all frustration of this isn't working. This, and it's like, well, that's not us, that's the WMS, right? Like, we can't help you with there. You've got to reach out to that WMS provider. So on day two, once we figured out all of the things that we could fix, it was much less stress, right? Every worker was happy. They were picking. They don't have time to stop and read and fix everything. They just want to get their orders out the door. So I think that's going to be the biggest impact is it just works, right? Like, I don't have these headaches.
Yeah. And I mean, to continue on that, I see this, it is, I mean, you're talking about the paper pick list, right? So, I mean, I got to say it, like, all these years that I've known ShipStation, and, I'm speaking to someone that they've hit that limit with ShipStation. I've got to say, as much as a ShipStation has been a great referral source for me, getting people onto a WMS platform, I think kudos to the product. I think the product itself is fantastic. It does enable someone to get started, print labels, come up with their workflows. It's very ingenious, some of the ways in which I see people take that software and use it. That said, when you hit that scale point where you're not just shipping out a few orders and it's not just a couple of people in the warehouse anymore, and you're hitting that pain point, it's a huge investment in terms of time. It's a huge leap in terms of learning, and it's a huge risk for your business to say, okay, we're going to go from this really painful solution, which we know is not working for us, but now we're going to go into the unknown. And I think anything that you can provide in a solution, whether it's the WMS, the hardware, and I think what we've got here is we've sort of solved the two biggest pain points. It's what's the core software that your warehouse is running on, that stack, and then how are your employees, how are the warehouse team getting around and doing things in the warehouse? So if you've got everything solved in a single shot, and both of those companies are working together. So there's no like, you're talking about that scenario, Gabe, recently that you've had. So you're going to your client and you're saying, to that warehouse, this is the hardware. There is this issue in the software. You've got to go to the software provider. The difference with us is we're going in as basically one solution provider, right? We're two teams, but we're working together. And I think you're gonna have companies that get to that point where they're going to get super sophisticated with the data that they're able to see. But it is that initial leap. It's getting into new processes and transforming from we print labels to we're doing, multi-item pick, and we're bringing things back and pack as a processing. So it is a leap. And I think anything that you can do from a solution perspective to just eradicate any friction point. You don't want to get into device management. You don't want to get into like, is the software updated across different devices? Is the socket mobile device connected? All of that stuff. Just get rid of the friction. And I think the solution overall should be, when it comes to people in the warehouse, the less thinking, the better. Just you see what you got to do, go to the thing that the software is telling you to do it, get the thing done, and on to the next, right? So to me, there is this sort of huge thing that I see time and time again where warehouses are grappling with, they need to change, but it's just the risk and the complexity of some of that change, which, I mean, obviously it's why I get up every day. I think it's why Gabe gets up every day and his team. We're working on solving that, right? Make it easier to do these more sophisticated things without the complexity that's normally involved in a large-scale WMS.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it goes back to, that old cringy statement of, it's not broke, so why fix it, right? I think that's
right.
that fear comes in of going after something new. So, I mean, the fact that you're able to come together and bring that like more of a full, complete kind of setup, like you mentioned, Gabe, taking the bugs out of the equation entirely, basically, right? By partnering with Nicholas. I mean, I think it makes sense to be able to do that and then put that in place. So really interesting, the partnership that you guys have developed here. And, I think it's very smart and glad to see, two friends, I would say, coming together here.
Yeah. And apparently you were the matchmaker, Kevin. So well done.
We're gonna have to pull that up and see. I think I do remember
we'll
that.
Ask Joe Unfulfilled to pull
yeah, I think I remember you saying you would give them like two scans or something like that. I think was there. Yeah, but I do remember that you posting something about that. So yeah, we'll definitely pull that up. But before we close out here, I'm interested from you guys. As we're recording this and releasing this, I mean, we are just kind of getting into the swing of peak season, right? And you guys are dealing with customers that I'm sure are feeling pressures of peak season, or maybe not feeling pressures because they're utilizing your solutions. I don't know. That's a little sales pitch from my side. But what would be your peak season tip for someone who is prepping, getting prepared, and starting to go through this season?
Who goes first?
You have an answer already?
I do.
Okay, then you go.
I don't think it's a typical one as well, because I mean, there's a lot, right? I know that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sort of. I almost feel like some of the answers are tropes at this point. I'm going to take a bit of a different angle, and I'm going to say, so we think about Work Hero, we think about your employees, your warehouse team. So peak season is a lot about that, augmenting the team. You're bringing in new employees. You're scaling the team up. You're going to be obviously dealing with more people. There's going to be more things that are going to happen with people. People are going to be out certain days. It's just the nature of the game. So my tip is, do you have a good onboarding manual, guide, cheat sheet for the employees that you're bringing into the warehouse, honestly? And then do you have basically an emergency action plan. So, and that is when this happens, who does it get escalated to? And if there's no response from that person, who does it get escalated to next? Yeah, that's what I would recommend for any warehouse team is like, what is your plan for new people coming in? How do they get onboarded? What's their cheat sheet? Do they have a cheat sheet? And then what is essentially the chain of things that need to happen if, say, an order can't be shipped or an item is not found in location, or have that clear for your team and maybe on a cheat sheet so your team know how to operate, including all those new people potentially bringing in.
Yeah, I think that's a great tip, definitely, because it's one thing. It's easy to flex down capacity, right? But it's hard to flex up capacity, right? So
yeah,
so you need to bring people in quickly and get them moving quickly. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So Gabe, what about you? What's your tip?
That's part of the beauty of this joint solution is that, let's say during peak season, you have to add 50% more workers to your team to pick to get stuff out the door. You can scale up like a SaaS with our joint solution. You'll have all the hardware, all the software for that time, and then you can scale back down. And that kind of, I would say, while I did that plug for us here, I'd say it kind of leads into my
it's
tip.
True.
I know, no, it is true, definitely. And that's one of the big things we see with customers is I don't want to buy a bunch of stuff I have to keep forever that I only use for these few months out of the year. And I would say, to speak to that is really like invest in the right technology, not just invest in technology, invest in the things that make cost-effective sense and that give you the right data. I think those are really important things. And we see a lot of holes in the warehouse now, and especially during peak season when you may add double your staff, even depending on what you're doing. And then you want to know, who are my top seasonal pickers who I can reward with full-time work or different kind of pay. So understanding everything going on in your warehouse, whether it be from Packiyo metrics, Work Hero metrics, combined from those two, which, it's really understanding your workforce and giving them the right tools. Retention is really big. Pickers that have better tools at a different company may go there. The hourly rate may be the same, but their life is easier and they pick faster. So that, I know it's expensive and scary at times, and that's what we're trying to eliminate here is that expense and that scare is right out of the box. You can just switch to this. It won't cost you more. It probably costs you less than what you're spending now. And that technology brings a lot more data to you. I think that's really important. As scary it is really having the right technology during peak season and any season, because you can better understand and manage your workforce better. And I think now when everyone's maybe, dealing with increased demand during peak season and worried about costs because they have to worry about their labor costs, going up, if you can 30%, 50%, improve your pick rates, you don't need to hire as many people. We kind of do that to ourselves sometimes is we have customers that say, well, we don't need to increase our subscription because we're doing so much better with your tools. We don't have to hire as many people. So that technology has a real impact. So investing in that, I think, is my tip.
Another pro tip is very random. Just make sure there's food and caffeinated products around. Right? Yeah. So team coming in the morning, get some donuts, get a couple of boxes of Joe. All that stuff makes a difference in terms of how fast people are running around when they're caffeinated. So that's probably another good one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think both great tips. And, I think I love that both of your tips are like centered around the worker themselves, right? Because at the core of it, even though, we talk so much about automation and robotics and all these things, the human worker is still at the core of
correct. Yeah.
So it's very important that you're understanding, like you said, Gabe, understanding who's performing well, and let's reward them, make sure that we're taking care of them beyond peak season as well, right? Simple things like bringing in food, like you mentioned, Nicholas. I mean, I think that's super important, being able to not only make sure that they're fed and they have energy, but also creating that moment and point where some camaraderie with the team can be built upon, right? You have lunch together as a team,
right?
You start to get to know people better, and you want to help each other out. You want to win together, right? You want to get those orders out the door together. You want to jump in other departments and help out and have that collaboration. So really great tips from both of you, and very awesome partnership. Very happy to hear about it. So happy we could talk about it here as well. I guess if people want to learn more about the partnership, what's the best way to do that? Scan Gabe's shirt, right?
Yeah, it actually worked. We were doing it earlier on.
We do have getrufus.com/Packiyo, and then you have Packiyo.com, right?
Yeah. And I promise, Gabe, I will have Packiyo.com/Rufus this weekend. I've just
Okay.
I've been working on product. But yeah, I mean, go to either our websites, reach out to either team. Like we're working together. We're bothering each other on Slack all the time. So just reach out.
All right, definitely. And we'll have both of those links in the description of this video too, so people can easily navigate to them. So Nicholas and Gabe, thank you so much for joining me this week for this episode of All Hands.
Thanks for having us, Kevin.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.